Warning, the following video has flashing lights and also includes content that may be deemed inappropriate for some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. Camp Nightmare Fuel. Produced and created by LordeStarfox.
Hello campers. Could everyone please report to the campfire area? This is where your camp counselors will begin tonight's fireside tales. Please give your attention to the illustrious LordeStarfox and the members of the Midnight Society. Counselors, take it away.
My creatures of the night, yes, it is once again Camp Nightmare Fuel time here on LordeStarfox Radio. We, of course, do have JJ Messenger and Speak in Code, specifically Drew, sitting around the late night fire as we again get ready to burn the midnight timber into the early hours of the morning. You should recognize both of those names. JJ is a weekly host here. And yes, Drew does make appearances in the darkness of the Fox Den whenever he does have some extra time to allot with us. Tonight, we are going to be giving Mr. JJ Messenger center stage here in just a few. He is going to be talking about some very gnarly encounters that have occurred down in a very creepy graveyard in his neck of the woods. Yes, this is going to be very intriguing and some nightmare fuel as always. Yet there are some contracts that have gained way too much interest, and I grow tired on waiting for payment. Drew and JJ, are you both ready to take a walk into the madness so that I can collect what is owed to me?
I'm ready.
I'm ready too.
All right. Well, as I stated to the audience, we are going to hand Mr. Messenger the good old mic here. He is going to unfold the darkness for us.
Oh, you bet. I'm ready.
All right, my man, I'm going to toss you the mic. Let's do it.
Now, when people get into paranormal research as beginners, as an entry point, they often take nighttime cemetery photographs. Any historic location, any location with a long history, any location with that's associated with intense emotional experiences is a good practice ground for a would-be psychic photographer. Now, back when I was a youngster, back in the 1980s, still in high school, I was first exposed to the family of Ed and Lorraine Warren. Now, everyone knows the Warrens now because of the Conjuring film franchise, but they were extremely prominent and popular in the 1980s. During the 1990s, I found that people didn't know who they were. Everyone was on board with Ghost Hunters, Grant and Jason, and that whole scene. And I had to wait all the way to the James Wan era for people to be aware of the Warrens once again. Of course, many of their cases were very prominent cases, newsworthy. Amityville, they were involved in the aftermath of that story. There was something called the Demon Trial that occurred in 1981 or 2. I think it was 82 in Bloomfield, Connecticut. And that's just when I was first exposed to the family, when I first knew who they were. and met them and socialized with them a bit. As a young guy, I was very much, shall we say, cautious. I didn't want to get involved in the field. I didn't want to be like a student of Ed and Lorraine. They did have students and, people that they brought on their team, and they trained so many people. At the time, I was way too nervous, shall we say, for that kind of thing. But I enjoyed researching on the sidelines, reading books and listening to their stories and getting acquainted and, learning quite a bit on the sidelines. It took me all the way till I was in my 40s to actually start experiencing things on a investigator level. And come the late 1990s and early 2000s was when digital cameras first became very popular. Now, back in the old days with the Warrens, psychic photographers, they would have 35 millimeter film that they had to work with. And it was very expensive to shoot dozens upon dozens of photographs, hoping that, some type of anomaly or unexplained image would come out. But come with the advent of digital photography, now all you needed were batteries and memory cards, and you can shoot hundreds upon hundreds of photographs looking for any kind of visual anomaly that might appear in your imagery. So my practice runs were at cemeteries. Now, this is before I was introduced to David Considine, who was a student of Ed and Lorraine, and David brought me on a lot of hard-hitting cases. And through other contacts, I went through the whole deal. I've seen poltergeist activity. I've been down the rabbit hole. But to start, as most investigators start, I was doing nighttime cemetery photography. Come, let's say around the year 2003, I was attracted to a certain cemetery in the town of Winsted. Now, Winsted is known for its cryptid history. The Winsted Wildman back in 1895 was a very prominent news story. It was in the New York Times. It was circulating in Boston newspapers. It was a Bigfoot-like creature that was cited by several different town residents. So Winsted had a reputation for being a strange and odd place. And I lived in the town next to Winsted, that being Barkhamsted. There's a very small cemetery in the center of town, some stones that go back to the early 1800s. And I would frequently walk through the cemetery and snap photographs. And, as I was saying with digital photography, you can go hundreds of photographs. I mean, there's no concern about cost in developing and all that. So I would go on my photography sprees, keeping the proper mindset, as Lorraine would have taught back in the day. Keeping a positive imagery in your head, keeping your faith defenses up, what they would call the white light defense, encasing yourself in an envisioned white light representing your higher power, your faith. And while doing that, you have to keep a positive and a good mindset. And this type of shall we say energy will help you catch unexplained imagery, because the concept behind psychic photography is that spiritual forces or spiritual energies are attracted to empathy. They're attracted to positivity. They're attracted to compassion. And you always want to have the proper mindset. If you're extremely negative, if you're extremely bitter or angry, you're not going to attract the type of thing you want to attract. So, yeah, I would go on these photography excursions, and it wasn't before long I was catching unexplained imagery. Now, much of that imagery took the form of unexplained mist. You have to be careful that it's not breath mist. So, a good thing for people to be acquainted with is to photograph your own breath mist intentionally. Photograph it at different temperatures, get to know what it looks like, get to know how it behaves. So, you can differentiate between a mist formation that's possibly a psychic mist formation as opposed to a naturalistic one. The photograph that got one of the most reactions from people, I would call it the gargoyle. Now, you had mentioned that it has, Ken, you had mentioned that it has like a dogman quality to it. And you could see that too if you wanted to. It has like a canine type head with like a discernible eye, mouth, ear tucked at the back of the skull. A very discernible formation and image. I called it the gargoyle because it looks like it's perched, like it would be perched on the edge of an edifice. And it was photographed right next to a very old tombstone dating back about 150 years. And there was a photograph right afterwards. I'll try to locate that in my files. It was not as defined, but it was very bizarre because it had like a spider web type formation to the mist. Yeah, that photograph in particular got a lot of reaction from investigators and people alike. It was in a few newspaper articles at the time whenever I did Halloween style interviews about ghost hunting. That's the story behind the gargoyle.
I got 4 questions for you so far. I've been typing away just as we're going. All right. When you said if you have like a bad attitude, pretty much, like if you have some sort of negativity, or if you're kind of like frustrated or mad or whatever the case, would that be like another word for like possess? Or would it be more or less like just kind of attaching to you?
It would start as an attachment.
Okay.
Yeah, the spiritual rule that the Warrens would teach is that in the spirit world, like attracts like. So if you maintain a positive or a sympathetic energy, you will attract positive style energy. If you are a negative person, if you are plagued by various stresses that are abnormal or unusual,
Okay.
so quite often with their cases, people in the households, they would obviously have other issues other than being haunted. It could be ill health. It could be just marital stress or physical abuse with some families, and that draws in, or it helps set the road, if you will. It helps pave the road for the negative spirits to come in and take advantage of the situation.
Okay. Almost as if like you're giving them permission because you're already in a bad mental space, like with your emotions or feelings, that you're like
Yes,
opening that up. Okay.
yes. That's meant to break you down mentally and spiritually. So it's meant to bring on depression, frustration, insomnia, illness,
Hmm.
the whole works.
Okay. Oh man, that makes a lot of sense. I never even put it into that perspective at all. Um, and then I was also going to ask you, okay, when you talked about the breath mist, so is that because in the pictures, you want to take a picture of your breath so that way you're aware that you know for sure that it's yours and not a spiritual entity?
Yes, you
Okay.
you want to recognize the various tricks that breath mist can play on you. Like the further away breath gets from you, and at nighttime you're using a flash. So the further away the breath drifts away from you on a chilly or humid evening, the different type of formation that will occur with that, a different type of natural evaporation that you can recognize. Now,
Okay.
quite often with psychic photography or psychic mist, as my friend David Considine would term it, we're not sure if they're utilizing natural mist or not, but this mist will be formed or will take the shape of something that's extremely unusual and unnatural. It can take the shape of facial features, of a form, or it could appear as various straight linear lines. And one often bizarre thing that it does is it can look like a slice of Swiss cheese, like a solid shape with holes in it. And they're very geometric, and that's the other odd thing. Like, as you know, with nature, things tend to swirl. They tend to be curvaceous and round. But with manipulated imagery, it's geometric. Right angles, sharp angles, formations. I know a woman that actually took a Christmas photograph. On the photograph was a misty word, and it spelled out trust. Trust, and it was very bizarre that she actually got a word on her photograph. It was totally unexplainable. There was no double exposure or anything to explain it away. Back in the 1990s, there was a TV show that was called Sightings. I don't know if you two were familiar with this show, but they had something on there they called the Ghost Writer. And it was a case where people would bring Polaroid cameras, the type before digital imagery, where they would spit out actual physical film and develop within a couple minutes. So with these Polaroid cameras, they would get words and messages, and sometimes they were written out in Latin. It was very bizarre.
One thing that I've noticed recently is I've been taking a course, and you have to take pictures in like an attic or a crawl space or a basement, somewhere dark. And what they say is like, instead of flashing your flashlight and taking a picture, that usually gives it like it distorts the photo. Even if it's on your phone, it distorts it. So like the best option for like taking a picture of somewhere dark is flash your light first, just to kind of get an idea of what you're taking a picture of. Then hold your phone or your camera exactly where that light was, and then take a picture with that flash on, and the flash from the camera should pick stuff up. So I'm almost wondering like if people that take photos of just areas where they think they saw something and they hurry up and take a photo, it's like sometimes they're not even seeing it until the photos actually develop. So it's like when you're in there, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that this photo actually got this. Where if you were in there, maybe that would have changed your attitude, or you would have had some sort of like just you would have been more fearful, I guess, in a way of it being able to like oppress you as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. You should be aware of what you're actually, taking a picture of. Like, there could be anomalous elements that you should be aware of, like maybe spider web
Oh,
painting down, or anything unusual in the area. And spider web strands, they can create some really strange illusions with photography. And things of that nature. Be aware of the moisture content in the air. It may be dusty, as you know. A lot of dust particles can look like an orb field because the dust will magnify into actual round shapes on the imagery. So yeah, it's good to be aware, definitely.
That's very interesting about the dust particles and the spider web. You would hate to walk through one without looking where you're going first.
Yeah, right.
Now the gargoyle portion of it. Can you describe it more, like where you would see it as well? Oh,
It's a blue mist formation. The whole formation is of a blue color, and
okay.
and it's got a shape to it of a gargoyle. It's got the formed head with the mouth in the front, an eye, a tucked ear on the back of the skull area. And when you go down lower towards its would-be body, you can see two mist strands that form like arms. And then you see in the rear quarter, like a leg that's bent, like a gargoyle would be perched on the edge of a building with its bent hind leg perched there. And to have all these elements come together in this random blue mist that's only seen by the tombstone, by the way. It's not like a field of mist. It's only localized right by that one stone. Very bizarre photograph.
Okay, that's awesome. And then Lord Starfox, what are your thoughts?
Great stuff right there for sure by both of you. To just touch base on a few things that both of you said before I toss the mic back to JJ and Drew for the latter part of the episode as we are starting to tie it up. Every snowflake actually is different, meaning every one that comes down is actually in different symmetry. And it's just amazing to think that billions and billions and billions of snowflakes, and they're all unique. Pretty cool stuff. And then the last thing for the moment I'd like to say is, yeah, as JJ was describing it, it really could look like, per se, a gargoyle. This is what I mean about the power of suggestion. I had just been doing a ton of research and looking through a ton of strange potential canine and baboon sightings. Of course, people could say, hey, gargoyle, but my mind went to the first place of, dude, that looks like a dog, man. Doesn't necessarily have to be. No, but that's just what I mean about power of suggestion. My mind was already in one area. Automatically, it just jumped right to that, meaning I didn't even think of gargoyle. I didn't think of anything else. It immediately, to me, looked like some sort of strange smoke werewolf or such. But that, again, is what I mean about things being implemented.
I'm all about caution. So I would advise against people trying to practice in the cemetery, trying to contact spirits. It's because when you do that, it forms the beginning of a relationship. When you think about human beings that you know in life, the beginning of any relationship is talking, speaking, communication. And with the spirit world, it's not necessarily that everything's demonic, but the threat is always there. It's always tucked away. You may never ever encounter a evil spirit or a demonic spirit, but you also, people lock their doors at night of their home. They lock their cars at night. The chances of someone actually breaking into your home or your car to steal something is pretty minimal, but we all do that anyhow, just to be safe. So it's the same with the paranormal. Don't take any unnecessary risks. Don't try to practice active communication, or just passively take photographs as you would as a tourist, say at the Statue of Liberty. And if you have a good positive energy about you, you may end up with some very unexplained images.
That that was awesome. I was I was gonna ask, like, do people go looking for this stuff sometimes? Like, what would you recommend? I had a few friends of mine that were like, and he was like, oh, I went to the cemetery and I started looking, and he's like, as soon as I got out of my car, the light started turning. I'm like, oh, I'm getting out of there. I wouldn't want to.
I would recommend what they call a binding prayer, where you pray to your higher power. I'm a Christian. You pray to your higher power to bind and protect your space, your personal space, and to bind whatever spirits that may be present to the current location. So you're not followed, so they don't become part of your life or attached to you. Because no one wants to be haunted. I mean, seriously. Yeah,
No.
even if it's benign, that's always a possibility. Because when you go somewhere with the intent to document the reality of spirits, they know your intent, you know, and they're like, "Oh, you're interested in me, huh? Oh, let's see how far we can bring this." So you don't necessarily want to be haunted.
No, not at all.
My final humorous note right here, so that way everyone does not have to have nightmares all night, is well, as I look at my collection of autographs on my wall, there are definitely a few astonishing smoke show women up here that could haunt me all they want. They're Michelle Gellar, maybe Taylor Swift, maybe Miley Cyrus, Jennifer Love Hewitt, any of them. I don't care.
All the
Yes,
classics.
my website, my YouTube sites are Unknowns from the Woods and Searching the Supernatural, 2 different channels.
And I am Drew from AKA Code from the Speak and Code podcast. You could find me everywhere.
Excellent. Well, before we tie this up for the night, Mr. Messenger, is there anything else you would like to throw in the oven with any of the topics that you had mentioned earlier? And the same question goes for you after, Drew.
Yeah, I would like to suggest, as I said, I've been down the rabbit hole with watching poltergeist activity and seeing some very unusual things. This isn't just, it's not Hollywood, it's not fictional, it's a reality. It's real. And until you experience it firsthand, I know it's easy to be detached and cynical and skeptical, but once you go down that rabbit hole, there's no denying it. You can't deny what you see here, you know. So everyone has to be careful with this stuff is my major concern. Don't deliberately immerse yourself in it, but if you're interested in the topic, though, there are safer ways to pursue it. Don't put yourself at risk. Don't be in danger.
And for me, stay safe, stay blessed, and keep on questioning.
Love it. You heard that. Sure, audience, please hit that good old like button for all of us. Hit that subscribe button for all of us. Make sure to share around the good old content for the algorithm to allow us to join the group of Captain Cool individuals. Also, yes, for our small content creators or content creators in general that you like what we produce, please do take a second. And yes, I understand it's an ad, but those are really important. We strategically place those there. And that's actually one of the best ways you can support us and help our channel grow is by just watching our videos from start to finish, as stated, hitting the like button, leaving comments, sharing it around, and also checking out the merch store. That's the best way you can help out any of us. Do appreciate everyone. Stay safe out there, be good people. And one thing I would like to suggest is just pay it forward. Thank you for hanging out tonight, Drew. I appreciate you.
Yeah, anytime, man. Thank you so much for the invite and stuff. And JJ, it was so nice to meet you. Hopefully we can run out again.
Yes, nice to meet you.
Nightmare Fuel, created by LordeStarfox.